Welcome to the partnership path in real life. Ever felt the gap between theory and reality? We're here to bridge that. Dive into real stories, real challenges, and real successes from professionals just like you in the partner and channel management world. Each episode is a journey, a lesson from those who've walked the partnership path, faced the challenges, and reaped the rewards. Whether you're a seasoned partner manager or just starting your journey, this is where theory meets practice. Ready to see the real side of partnership? Let's get started.
Well, welcome to the show, Edmundo. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. Let's start by having you introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been working with partners.
No, love it. And again, thank you for the opportunity. It's quite interesting to get an email from you, John, and asking me to join this. So appreciate that. So I've been working with partners effectively a little bit more than 2 years, so 2.5 years. But I actually, when I joined Microsoft, which is where I work, I had a project that worked very closely with partners when I was what we call a customer success manager. So I led that for a year. When I was within that role. So that exposed me a little bit to what we've been discussing, but it wasn't until I kind of went through the course that I actually learned a lot more on the complexities, right? So
yeah,
it's a bit.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this with some other listeners before as well, that when you come out of the kind of the selling side or the customer focus side, I think there's a tendency to think that the partner side is a lot simpler than it actually is. And it's actually a really complicated job, right? And so I think it can be a little bit of a wake-up call when you get in there about what it takes to really work with partners. So, well, listen, this is one of our very first companion episodes. And so I'm super excited to hear your reaction to this episode that you listened to on, the difference between a partnership and the partner account. And of course, we cover that in the training as well. So tell me a little bit about the first time you heard that concept, how that resonated, what went through your head and kind of just how you reacted to it.
To be honest, I think it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And, when you listen to it for the first time, you kind of get this wake-up call that, hey, this is actually very true, right? I mean, a company is a bunch of different objectives, a bunch of different areas, people that are managing those different areas. Like, it's not one size fits all. There will be differences, and there are differences. And I think having a concept of within an account or within a partner that you're working with in an organization, there are multiple ways to drive impact, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of got the sense of the partnership that you were discussing.
So tell me a little bit about after kind of hearing that concept and then turning around and looking at the partners that you work with, how did that change, or did it change the way you were approaching them? And how does that change the way you think about what you do with your partners?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't go into this, but definitely in Microsoft and a lot of companies, we have different partner development managers, right? In my case, we lead some of the global strategic partners as well. And I think when I joined the role, I immediately realized this is very tough, right? I mean, covering an organization that might have, again, like 5, 20 different business lines, works in 50 different countries. How can I manage that with just one person, right?
Right.
And it brought me back a little bit to what I did when I was a customer success manager, which is how do I drive these things at scale, right? So when I looked at the partnership concept, my immediate thought is, how do I make this simple?
Yep.
How do I make this as simple as possible so I can scale and drive more impact and just replicate in different countries or in different areas or industries that we're going to work on, right? So I think one of the questions you're asking as well is, how do maybe I define partnerships or how other people are doing it? And I love you called it out. I love the concept of industries, right? And that's something that, in our company as well, in Microsoft, we're definitely trying to get to know more of our customers, and the industry lens is very important, right? Because every organization within an industry has some particular requirements, right?
Sure.
Has some different objectives. So that alignment between industry to me made a lot of sense, and it made it a way for me to scale this one single message tied to an industry that then we can just tweak little by little when we go to the US or we go to Japan or we go to Australia. And that to me at least has been very, very helpful, right?
Yeah. So, and how did the partner respond to that? Like, if so, you know, I mean, were they open to that? Were they accepting to that? Did you? I mean, I'm assuming you told them about that. Like, hey, here's how I'm going to approach you. What was their reaction?
Um, I think they got into the idea very quickly because the way I try to approach that definition was by bringing our teams as well. So we have industry experts as well, and they saw immediate linkage between what they were saying from their solution and how they were experiencing different customers to what we were saying, right? So they saw, wow, this could be an easier way for us to align our go-to-market, our message, and essentially go and drive more of our objectives. So I think we had a workshop that I brought a bunch of different industry execs and just put them all in a Teams room. Again, digital. This was around COVID time, so I'm sure everybody can relate. So we brought them in a workshop. I set them up in different rooms, and I was just jumping around between the rooms and just kind of getting them to get some information. What are the key things that are aligned within this industry that make sense? And there was immediate connection between the two companies, right?
Yeah.
So that to me was well taken, and that's been something we're using now in our plans moving forward, and it's very helpful because it helps us connect better with the two organizations.
Sure. I love that concept, Edmundo. The whole idea of um, it wasn't necessarily that the partner was structured a particular way, but it made sense to you. And when you proposed it to them or essentially tested it with them, they were like, oh, yeah, actually, that makes a ton of sense for us, right? I think that's such an important concept that we sometimes in our partnerships have to take the lead and be the ones to sort of suggest, hey, this might be a more effective way for us to engage, and let the partner respond to that. I love the fact that what a great example you've got of putting them into different teams rooms and just kind of letting them talk, because it sort of, I'm sure there's a legal term for that, isn't it, about like it is what it is, or it becomes obvious to people or whatever, like ipsum lorem, or I don't know what it is, but anyway, like that's the whole idea. Like now that they're talking to each other, they're like, oh my gosh, this makes a ton of sense. I love that. Really cool. Excellent. All right. Well, let me ask you another question in that realm. You're 2 years, couple years into working with partners, plus the experience you had in your customer success job. What's your advice to someone who's kind of either coming into a partner job, or maybe he's been doing partner for a long time, but has never really broken their partner account into multiple partnerships? What's your advice on how to approach that? Like, what is somebody who's never done it before? What's your tips and tricks for them?
Besides going through your course, I'm taking it.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Take the EQ selling training would be great. Yeah.
No, but definitely, I mean, like, no, look, lots of good learnings from those, from what you've been kind of sharing with us. I like to keep things simple.
Yeah.
I think simplicity is important, and in that simplicity, there's also clarity, right? So I love how you started the episode as well. Just like we're the translators, right?
Yeah.
And that made to me a lot of sense, right? I mean, you are trying to translate what your objectives are as a company, and vice versa, you're trying to understand what they're trying to drive as a business, right? But like you said, there could be multiple ways to skin the cat, right?
Yeah.
So we got to keep things simple. We got to understand really what the objectives are and how do we drive clarity between the two so we can drive impact. Because I am a firm believer that success drives more success. And you can get into this whole loop of, yes, I'm trying to understand multiple different things. And I've gone through this as well, where I try to eat the whole elephant. And I was super stressed. It's like, I don't understand these things. And then that drove frustration because it made things slow, right? And
Yep.
I think velocity is important to a lot of these partners. But the other thing I say, so simplicity, clarity, very important. Understanding what both teams want, and then trust, right? I think
Yeah.
in that process of driving clarity, of driving success story, that builds up trust.
Yeah.
And in the end,
Yep.
I think we're all people, right?
Yep.
At the
Yep.
end of the day, and that's the whole beauty, I think, that I'm learning about partnerships. It's about the people.
For sure.
So they need to be able to trust you to give you more informations, to open doors into different areas, to be receptive to changes as well that you may need to bring to them, saying no.
Yeah.
So trust is I think, a big pillar on that one, and that flows from the clarity that
Yeah.
I mentioned.
Yeah. And even though you didn't pull this out as like a specific point, you said this multiple times, which is, look, there's no one right answer, right? And it's so critical in this particular topic of figuring out what the partnerships are, um, that it doesn't always have to be industry, right? That worked really well for
Sure.
you and your partners, but for another partner, it might be something different, and that's okay. That's part of the simplicity, is you got to do what's going to work with the partners that you're working with. Yeah, love that.
100%.
Well, hey, Edmundo, this was super helpful. I really appreciate you coming on the Partnership Path podcast with us and sharing some of your expertise and some of your ideas. And be honest with you, I think I might want to have you back on another episode sometime. So I may be calling you again and having you come back.
All right, just let me know.
Excellent.
Thank you for
All right.
having me.
Thanks, Edmundo.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the Partnership Path in real life today. Remember, the real world tests theories and creates leaders. Don't stop here. Subscribe, learn, and grow with us. Let's make every experience count. Until our next real life story.